Welcome to the Science of Fiction HFY Galaxy Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from HFY Galaxy Tales. Where humanity always finds a way, the mockery in orbit, the stars above. Vega 29 were calm. But the space around the planet was full of danger. 3 Earth ships floated quietly near the mining colony. They were old, small, and worn. Their paint was chipped, their engines hummed softly, and their weapons were limited. But they stood firm in a perfect triangle around the colony below, on the other side of the sky. 20 alien warships formed a line like a wall of metal and pride. Their hulls gleamed in the dark, bright with the red markings of the Kroger Empire. Each ship was 10 times the size of the Earth ones, with hundreds of guns pointing forward. And in the center of them, floating like a king above his court, was the Kroger flagship. Inside that massive ship, Admiral Krozek sat in a golden chair. His scales were green and scarred. His eyes were cold and proud. He looked at the human ships and laughed. He leaned forward and opened a wide communication signal. To the humans hiding in their rust buckets, he said, his voice echoing in space, "You have brought a child's knife to a beast's battle. You stand before the Kroger Empire with toy ships and silent lips. Are you brave, or just foolish?" There was no reply from the Earth ships. Admiral Krozek smiled wider. He turned to his officers and waved his hand. "Let them speak before we crush them. Perhaps their final words will entertain us." Aboard one of the Earth ships, the TNS Valor, Commander Reyes watched the broadcast. He stood still, arms crossed, calm like a stone in a storm. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Farah, looked nervous. "Sir, should we respond?" Reyes shook his head slowly. "No, not yet." The 3 Earth ships had orders not to engage. They were not meant to win a war today. They were here to stall, to hold, to buy time. Reyes had received a final message from Earth just minutes ago. It was short, just one word: stand by. He trusted that word more than any weapon. The alien ships began to move forward slowly. Their engines burned brighter. The Kroger Empire was preparing to attack. The mining colony below had no shields, no defense. Thousands of civilians, men and women and children, watched the sky from below with fear in their eyes. In one small classroom on the colony, a teacher held a child's hand and whispered, "Don't look up. Just stay quiet. Everything will be okay." The child didn't listen. He looked up through the window and stared. Then he blinked, confused. "Teacher, ... Why are the stars disappearing?" In orbit, the sensors on the Kroger ships started flashing. One officer turned to Admiral Krozek, confused. "Sir, ... We're picking up a massive energy signature behind the moon. I don't understand the readings. It's too large." Krozek waved him off. "Probably a malfunction. These humans can't even build proper engines." But the lights kept flashing. The signal grew stronger. The officers looked at each other in silence. Then something dark, something huge moved behind the moon's edge. One of the Kroger captains shouted, "Object entering visual range, sir. It sits not a ship. It's a fortress." Krozek finally stood up from his golden chair and walked to the viewing screen, and then it appeared, a shape larger than any vessel the galaxy had ever known, black as the void, but outlined with blue energy lines that pulsed like veins. It didn't fly. It arrived, as if the universe had opened a doorway and let it in. Its name, burned into its side in massive letters, was EOS, the Earth Mothership, long whispered about. Never seen, built in silence, hidden from the galaxy. And now, it had come. Krozek froze. His officers stepped back. The alien fleet, so proud just minutes ago, suddenly looked like insects near a mountain. "Sir," said a young Kroger officer, voice shaking, "what are your orders?" Krozek growled, "This is a bluff, a trick. Fire a warning volley. Show them we are not afraid." The alien ships launched their missiles. Bright lights cut through the dark, heading straight for the EOS. The missiles flew true. But when they reached the mothership, they disappeared into a ripple of blue energy, absorbed, like pebbles hitting water. No explosion, no damage, no response. But then, the EOS spoke. Every radio in the system carried the message, every frequency, every language. It was not shouted, it was not angry, it was calm. And because of that, it was terrifying. "This sector is under Terran protection. You have 30 seconds to withdraw." Krozek's face turned pale. He opened a direct channel to Commander Reyes. "You call this honor? Hiding behind a shadow. Is this your answer to war?" Reyes looked into the screen, calm as always. He replied, with a single sentence, "You mocked our size. But you never asked what we were buying time for." Then he ended the call. Eos powered up, not its weapons, but something deeper. A silent pulse of energy spread from its core. It was invisible to the eye, but every alien ship felt it. Lights went dark. Engines stalled. Systems crashed. The Kroger fleet became still, powerless, floating metal in the void. The Earth ships remained untouched. So did the colony. Down below, the teacher still held the child's hand. The boy whispered, "It's beautiful." The stars came back. Commander Reyes looked out at the frozen fleet. He gave a soft command, "Hold position. Await Earth's final orders." And as the EOS floated in silence, covering the sky like a watchful god, one truth was clear to all who watched. Earth was never weak. Earth was waiting. The sky goes dark asterisk, the alien fleet floated like broken toys in space. All 20 ships of the Kroger Empire, once so proud and loud, were now silent. Their systems were shut down. Lights flickered weakly inside the hulls. Engines didn't move. Weapons didn't respond. Only the sound of their own breathing filled the ears of every alien soldier, and above them, covering the stars, the Earth's mothership, EOS, remained still. It had not fired a single shot. It had not used any visible weapon. And yet, the most feared fleet in this sector was now dead in the sky. That silence screamed louder than any explosion. Inside the Kroger flagship, Admiral Krozak was still standing. His claws gripped the armrests of his golden command chair. Sweat dripped down his thick green scales. His voice cracked as he shouted to the bridge crew, "Get the power back. Do something." The crew didn't move. They were frozen in fear, staring at the black shape outside the window. It was so large they couldn't see where it ended. It stretched across the sky like a god come to judge them. Then, the EOS spoke. "Again, this is your second and final warning. Remove all forces from Terran borders. Cease operations. You have 20 seconds. The voice was not human. It was a machine calm, cold, perfect. It didn't yell. It didn't beg. It spoke like it had already won. Aboard the mining colony below, the people listened with wide eyes. Children clung to parents. Some cried. Some whispered in wonder. The ground itself shook slightly, not from weapons, but from the distant hum of EOS's energy field. Commander Reyes stood on the deck of the TNS Valor, watching the scene unfold. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just nodded slowly. "They should have listened," he said quietly. Lieutenant Farah whispered beside him, "Sir, EOS, is it really as powerful as they say?" Reyes looked at her, his voice low. "It's not just a ship. It's Earth's final sentence." Krozak stared at the EOS with shaking hands. He knew what it meant now. This wasn't an act of defense. It was an act of memory. A message. Earth had been silent for too long. Now it spoke through steel and shadow, but Krozak's pride wouldn't die so easily. He slammed his fist on the console. "Send a signal to the High War Council. Tell them, Earth has deployed a Forbidden-class weapon." The comms officer turned slowly. "Sir, our signal range is gone. EOS is jamming the entire grid. Then activate the backup drive. We must retreat." Krozak barked. The engineer replied, "Emergency. Power is locked. We can't move." The truth sank into Krozak's bones like ice. They were trapped. Not by force, but by design. He stared again at the EOS. Its surface shifted like a living machine. Lights crawled across its body, forming patterns that no alien mind could understand. It was more than technology. It was a language. And they had never bothered to learn it. Then something new happened. A beam of pure white light extended from the base of EOS. It was not a weapon. It was a spotlight. It reached all the way to the mining colony below, touching the ground like a finger from heaven. Inside the colony, a little girl stepped forward from a group of refugees. Her clothes were dirty. Her hands trembled. But she looked up into the light, and for the first time in days she smiled. The light gently scanned the colony. No harm, no fear, just presence. And in orbit, the alien ships could only watch. Krozak finally sank into his chair. He whispered, "Why? Didn't we see this coming?" One of his officers finally spoke, voice broken. "Because we thought Earth had stopped building, but they were just building where no one could see." Suddenly, across every screen on every ship, a new message appeared. It was a live broadcast from Earth itself. The face of an old woman filled the screen. Her uniform was black with silver trim, her hair was white, her skin wrinkled, but her eyes were sharp. Her name was Fleet Marshal Nyla Chen. She spoke calmly to the Kroger Empire and any who stand against peace. This is the first and last reveal of the Earth Mothership, EOS. We will not invade, we will not chase, but we will defend what is ours. Her eyes grew colder. For 100 years, you laughed at us, mocked our silence, called us weak. You forgot that silence is not weakness. Silence is planning. Silence is patience. And now, we have spoken. She leaned closer. If you return, EOS will not warn you again. The broadcast ended. Back on the TNS Valor, Reyes let out a slow breath. That's it. Message sent. Lieutenant Farah watched the alien ships drift silently. Will they ever forget this? No, Reyes replied, and neither will the stars. In space, the EOS finally turned. Not quickly, not in anger. Just in purpose. Its engines lit softly, but with such power that nearby asteroids shifted in orbit. It began to move slowly, gracefully like a mountain that had chosen to leave. The alien fleet didn't follow. They didn't move at all. From that day on, no Kroger ship ever crossed into Terran space again. And every planet, every race, every curious watcher across the galaxy remembered the shape that covered the stars. Not a warship, but a shadow made of memory. The price of mockery asterisk. The stars were quiet again. The Earth Mothership, EOS, had left the system. Its massive frame no longer cast shadows over the mining colony or blocked out constellations. What remained behind was silence and shame. The once Kroger fleet still drifted in orbit. Their systems were slowly coming back online, but no one on board was cheering. No one shouted victory songs. Their weapons had not been fired. Their power had meant nothing. Inside the Kroger flagship, Admiral Krozek sat alone in his command chair. The golden trim of his uniform looked dull now. His sharp voice was gone. His eyes, once fierce, stared at the blank screen in front of him. He had not lost a battle. He had lost pride. Krozek's voice was a whisper when he finally spoke. They did not come to conquer. They came to remind. None of his crew replied. Outside, the human ships had not moved either. Commander Reyes still stood at the window of the TNS Valor, watching the floating enemy vessels. His face was calm, but there was something behind his eyes. Not joy, not pride, just quiet warning. Lieutenant Farah approached him, speaking softly. Sir, EOS is gone. But the alien fleet. They're still here. Should we make contact? Reyes nodded once. Open a channel. I'll speak. Farah tapped the controls. A moment later, Krozek's tired face appeared on the screen. The connection crackled, weak but clear. There was a long pause. Neither man spoke. Then Reyes broke the silence. You saw what we can do. We didn't want this, but we were ready for it. Krozek didn't blink. That ship. EOS, it didn't just break our systems, it broke the Empire. Reyes replied, voice steady. Maybe it's time to rebuild something better. Krozek gave a sad smile. We laughed at Earth. For decades, we thought you were weak because you were quiet. Reyes looked straight into the screen. We were quiet because we were watching. You can learn more by listening than shouting. For the first time in his life, Admiral Krozek bowed his head. Not in defeat, but in understanding. We will leave your colony in peace, he said. And we will never forget what flew above us today. Then the screen faded to black. The alien ships began to turn. One by one, slow and careful, they changed direction. No orders, no shouts, just silent motion. They moved like ghosts, humbled and shaken. Heading back into the deep black of space. From the mining colony below, people stood outside and watched. The sky. They had no weapons, no shields, just hope. And today, that had been enough. A child tugged at his mother's sleeve. Will the big black ship come back? The mother smiled gently. Only if it has to. Across the galaxy, news of the EOS spread like wildfire. Leaked footage, shared broadcasts, and terrified survivors painted the same picture. A ship too big to measure. A force too powerful to stop, and a message too clear to ignore. Earth remembers, and Earth builds in silence. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Races that once saw humans as background players now argued about treaties and protections. Some wanted peace. Others wanted answers, but none dared speak of war. On Earth, the streets were quiet. There were no fireworks, no parades. The public only saw a simple headline flash on screens worldwide: EOS confirmed. Mission success. At the edge of Earth's military command bunker, Fleet Marshal Nyla Chen stood alone in a dark room. Her hands were behind her back, and her eyes stared at a giant screen showing a live feed of space. The EOS was still out there somewhere, but no one on Earth knew exactly where. And that was the point. A young officer stepped into the room. "Ma'am, should we schedule a press release?" Nyla shook her head. "No, EOS was never about making noise. Let the galaxy talk. We've said enough." The officer paused. "What if they test us again?" Her voice was quiet but sharp. "Then we remind them again." Back in orbit over Veganine, the TNS Valor slowly turned to escort the mining colony's supply ships. Life was returning, to normal. The colony's lights blinked on. Generators hummed. Families held each other again. Reyes stood near the viewing deck, watching the stars. Farah walked beside him. "Sir, do you think the galaxy understands now?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said softly, "They understand one thing. The time for laughing at Earth is over." She smiled faintly. "We only had 3 ships out here today." Reyes nodded, and they were enough, because behind them came the truth. Above them, the stars sparkled like before. The sky looked peaceful again. But anyone who had seen the shadow of EOS would never see the stars the same way again, because they would remember what could come from the silence, because they would remember Earth.